Hi there. Just thought I'd create a video of one of my PowerPoint presentations for those of you out there that are coaches or hypnotherapists or counsellors about how I work with my clients that are suffering from anxiety and stress-related issues that may cause them to change how they're seeing and feeling their world. So 3 keys to creating a successful outcome with Meredith McCarthy is something that I put together as a way of just informing people about how I work with people. So first of all, how I work with my clients to assist them with change. Hypnotherapy is one of my baseline toolkits. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, have been practicing for 26 plus years. One of the things about hypnotherapy is that every story that we're telling ourselves is hypnotic, and we are very open to, of course, our imaginations. And when we start to imagine a story that isn't necessarily the one we want winning, that can be problematic. And many of our clients that we might see can get into that space where they're into this funky kind of way of looking at something, or a not so helpful way of looking at something. I call it the disaster channel. Now, if we want to shift that, then it's really important that we educate people in the understanding of hypnosis and hypnotic language, and how every story that they're telling is really reinforcing or compounding that idea or story or belief. So really important to shift and change those stories on the interior. The coaching toolkit, of course, we've got to really think about that global perspective, what's really going on here, and coaching people through change. It may be challenging sometimes, things that they're not sure about or stuck about, and beliefs that might be holding them back. The coach, I think, as a hypnotherapist, you become a natural coach because you need to be asking really useful questions that help unpack your client and help them to get to those desired results. But it's important that the client be the one that picks what they want to achieve, and the client is also responsible in those steps of how they're going to go about it. However, if they're focusing on that anxiety and they're feeling anxious every day, then that can be a real game changer and deal breaker. So resolving anxiety to begin with, so people can go into the day in a brighter way, is a key thing. And I guess I'm going to share with you those 3 key things that I teach all of my clients that come in with anxiety, so they can go away and put that into place. It's not so much telling them that they must do this, but it's about explaining how it works, and you find that naturally people will uptake that toolkit if it makes sense to them. So it's really important that you're not going into that dictatorship, that you kind of stay in that client-centered role, that coaching that person into that empowered change, but they're the one that's really owning it. The meditation toolkit, there's lots of evidence that show 20 minutes of mindfulness meditation in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening can really calm the farm on the inside. So helping the hippocampus, that area of our brain that is regulating our emotions, to really relax a lot and see things in a clearer, calmer way. Because of course when we get anxious, our brain starts to get a bit fizzy and we're not always thinking in the most logical way. So meditation is a wonderful tool in my toolkit, and often I'll teach people some basic tools that they can go away and practice. And hypnotherapy and meditation are very, very similar, but slightly different as well. So it's just really understanding how you can share just a simple meditation practice, but also really working on what's their vision or what's their hypnotic story that they want to reinforce. And that coaching process will help you and the client, of course, to understand what those steps might be. The yoga toolkit, that comes into one of the keys, really, that yogic body, that idea of movement and how it can affect us in breath and how it can affect us in the way that we think about things. This is yoga. It's not just the asanas, the physical postures, but there are 8 limbs of yoga, 8 aspects of yoga that people follow. So it's really quite interesting to sort of work on that. But anyway, let's get back to what is hypnosis for those that haven't used hypnotherapy or don't quite understand what hypnosis is. So teaching that hypnosis is always self-hypnosis. You are really the one that's creating the imprint of magic through the thoughts you're thinking, the daydreams. They're not going nowhere, they're going somewhere, and that's really important to remember. So how you keep your client focused and positive suggestions is huge, because even through just talking to them, you go into a hypnotic state where they're focused and they're really learning and joining the dots, and their hypnotic mind is working really well in that space. So if we can focus more on what is the plan rather than what they don't want to do, really focus and get them moving into what do they want, what's important, the doing script rather than the don'ting script. And when you get your client to start imagining the doing script, already the hypnotic mind is being utilized in a really positive way. So how to have fun with the dress rehearsal as well, and rehearsing success. Get them to fast forward. Imagine your best day ever. What does that sound like, look like, feel like? This is a big part of how I'm working or journeying with my clients. And they're the one that is in charge of what that success looks like, sounds like, feels like. So really give them space to imagine that. How to be a dream walker and walk them through their success, noticing the idea of their success, not your idea of their success for them, but their idea really of success. What does that mean for them? Your idea of success for you might be quite different to their model of the world. So always remember that. We're kind of looking at what is it that clients go through and what is their anxiety like. Not every person will be experiencing anxiety in the same way, so think about that. We honour each person's reaction to anxiety and explore their triggers. This is important as a coach, as a counsellor, as a hypnotherapist, as a mind coach. These are all things that we must honour, is how is that person, and being really curious about how they're doing their depression, how they're doing their anxiety, how they're doing their negativity. You know, what is the habit that they've got into? Are they eating right? Are they sleeping enough? Are they having the right support around them? So thinking about what is really going on and honouring that person's reaction, because again, what might cause them to feel anxious may not cause them to feel maybe a full-blown anxiety attack, but it might come in not being able to sleep at night, or not being able to eat properly and eating rubbish or something like that. So there might be, I guess, a big, wider look into what their triggers really are. What are the beliefs that are going on that is fueling those triggers? And what might you want to address first? So prioritizing what they want and the steps that they might need to take is really important. So ask, how do they react when they get triggered? This is a really vital question. So what's that like for you? What goes on? What are you thinking? And are you sort of acting out in a different way than you normally would when you know that you're anxious? Some people actually are very good at faking it. So they might look to the outside world that they've got it all together, but on the inside, they may not be feeling quite the same. So quite a lot of people have masks on. So when they're coming to you for help or assistance, of course, that's their time to be vulnerable, but your time to really hold that vulnerability in a safe and useful way. So not focusing too much on the negative story, but also as you're unpacking them, really get them to future landscape. What do you want to feel instead? What is the new way that you want to be? So looking at how do we reverse those old triggers and really reinforce new positive triggers. How long do they take to recover after being triggered is another really big question, because a lot of times people hold on to things for months and years even. And others, it's like new day, new way, you know. So a lot of people are a little bit more buoyant than others, and just working out, you know, is this person someone that does rapid change, or is this person just slow to change and process things? And that's okay too. There's not a right or wrong thing or timing that people should overcome something, but it gives you an insight into how gentle they might need to be for a period of time to really see that change occur. Others can see change instantly. Other people might take a lot longer to see change. What would they like to change? Really investigate quite a lot of bit of time to that story. You know, what is the new story? Putting the past in past tense. I had been, I was, I used to, now I'm beginning to, and whatever those things are. Get really clear about that, and also look at what have they done already that's been helpful, and maybe in the past that they've done, perhaps they've forgotten about. So looking at their toolkit, what have they done in the past? What creates successful outcomes? So being client-centered, it's all about your clients, not really about you. Measurable, is it measurable? Sometimes it's subjective and sometimes objective. So if we don't have a solid way of measuring it, maybe using a scaling question, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you? Or how anxious do you get? And now when you imagine that new scenario on a scale of 1 to 10, what does it feel like now? So when we're asking those kind of scaling questions, it can be quite useful to get into how they're measuring their success, or really looking at the story, or what would be changed within their mind or their actions that would cause them to feel that they have been successful. And also the last thing is it achievable? Sometimes there are certain things that are out of people's control. So is it an achievable outcome or not? This is something really to consider. A lot of times it might be a boss that, of course, they can't just get rid of their job and move on so quickly. So they might need to look at other ways of dealing with the anxiety triggers or expectations that the boss may have, or how the boss perhaps communicates to them, or in some cases doesn't communicate to them. So when we're looking at achievable, it could be a spouse or a partner that they're having a few issues, and anxiety is being created in that relationship. Maybe trust has not been as strong in that relationship, and it's causing them to become fretful or jealous or anxious about the future and what that might hold. And of course, we don't have a remote control over our partners. All we can do is control how we turn up to it. And this is really important, that whatever goals or strategies you're working your client towards, it is going to be achievable, because it's unfair to set an unachievable expectation or goal. So let's start with exploring the 3 keys to resolve anxiety. First key is breath. Breathing in, breathing out. We all do it. But some people shallow breathe, and some people, when they get into a holding pattern of stress, really aren't breathing. That's helping them to relax and feel good in their world. So a little exercise that I've been teaching people for a very long time is breathing in to the count of 5, holding to the count of 3, and then out to the count of 7. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As we do this, something magical happens, and we help the muscles that are in charge of our breath cycle begin to relax, and we begin to allow a very clear signal to be sent through to our central nervous system that it's okay to relax now, it's time to relax. So breathing in, pausing, and then allowing the exhalation to be longer than the inhalation also stops people from hyperventilating. Sometimes we get too much oxygen. We're going so when people really, really stress, they're wanting to oxygenate their muscles so they can fight and fly. However, if there's nothing to fight and fly over, then what happens is you're sitting in this area, we've got too much oxygen, we're hyperventilating, we're not feeling very good. And that can cause a lot of issues. So breathing in, pausing on that breath, and slowly letting it go for 5 or more minutes can be a really nice reset. I often teach my clients to breathe in and release the breath as if it was a sigh. As we sigh, it's a natural reset. And once we do this with that exercise, it's incredible how that can be a game changer for people, because people sigh anyway. So, well, that's your natural, unconscious, just resetting after it's been through an ordeal. You take a deep breath and you sigh it out. And that is a wonderful thing that we can do to mirror what nature does anyway. So moving into the key number 2, body language, turning off the stress response. It's important that your body language is in a relaxed or powerful kind of setting rather than stressed. Now, often people are holding microstress, tension or stress in their body. Maybe it might be the jaw or the neck or shoulders or the glutes or their stomach or wherever it might be. So noticing and scanning the body, can I relax my jaw a little bit more? Can I relax my head, neck and shoulders more? Can I relax my back more? Am I sitting in a calm and relaxed and strong way in my body? They did a study. They were observing blind people winning races, and they all did something very, very spectacular. And they starfished, just like this lady in this picture. Arms up in the air, looking high, big smile. And it was a power pose. And they thought, well, none of these blind people have ever learnt this. It's something that we intuitively do as a body language cue. So what's going on here? What's happening with the hormones? Because many times when we have these hormones racing through our system, something magical occurs where we tend to shift, the body mind follows. So we're keying into these happy hormones or these strong hormones. They did this study then. They got 2 groups of people, large group of people, to sit or stand in a submissive pose for 3 minutes. And the other group were to sit and stand in a power pose for 3 minutes. And they took testosterone levels through the saliva. They measured the saliva. They measured the testosterone through the saliva. And they noticed that in the group with the power posing, there was a significant increase in testosterone, which is our competitive hormone. And that kind of brings us into our power, right? So then they got both of the groups to run a series of risk exercises, e.g. gambling. And the group that always did better with that were the group in the power poses. So when we're looking at actually shifting your body into a body language that fits with being relaxed, then that makes sense. If we're breathing right and if our body is in the right position, it helps so much for our mind to get into that right position too. So the third key is the mind story. Putting that old story in negative tense, negative past tense. So I had been sad, I had been stressed, now I am becoming more and more relaxed every day. That positive outcome is really important to envision in the mind story. So in your mind, we have this movie theatre. It's like the visual cortex. The frontal lobe is where we imagine stuff. Now, just because we imagine it doesn't make it true, but unfortunately, our interior self begins to experience often those thoughts as if they are true. We begin to create negative hormonal responses to that negative story that we might be having on in that interior movie theatre. So it's really important to shift to happy ever after story, to run what you're going to be doing instead of the don'ting script. I hope I don't get stressed, into the doing script. I'm going to be positive, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be resourceful, I'm going to be calm. Whatever that is, looking at that and also being a cheerleader, remembering to go, ta-da, yes, that was good. I did a good job here. And really inviting yourself to acknowledge those small little things that you've done well. This is huge. Anyway, moving on. When we're kind of looking at that imagination exercise, imagining success, let's do a little wee exercise before we finish here today. So I invite you all just to take a moment to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, take a deep breath and sigh it out. And maybe just take 5 more of those sighs, breathing in and sighing them out. And as you release each breath, just giving permission for your body to begin to relax. Noticing any areas that might have been holding tension, and give them permission to release and relax. Relaxing your head, your neck, your shoulders, relaxing your arms, your hands, your fingers. Just working through your body, relaxing deeper and deeper into your legs, your feet, your toes. Just making sure you didn't have any micro tension. Just breathing in and releasing that breath slowly. Allowing the exhalation to be slower than the inhalation. Pausing at the top of that breath, breathing in. Pause for a moment, then slowly let it go. That's it. And I would like you to all imagine in your mind the idea of success. What that looks like, sounds like, feels like. The kind of happiness it might bring you. The joy. Whatever it is in that area of your life that you want to imagine being successful in. And bring that into the forefront of your mind. Play the scene as if you were there. What you're doing, how you're being in that space, in that position of success. What is a story that you have in the interior of your mind, and just bask in that. Imagine that. Imagine how you react to the world and that feeling of success, energy. And imagine perhaps even the relationship you're having with yourself on the inside. Being that inner cheerleader. Celebrating that success. Being kind. And notice what's changed. What's improved. And imagine smiling. And that smile being felt through every part of you, every part of your body. It's that smile of success. And you might even imagine that in the future, when you spark a smile, you feel that feeling of success again. What wires together, fires together. And imagine that. And coming back into the space again, just opening your eyes. Hopefully that was pleasant. Putting it all together, just to cap this off. So looking at the idea that anyone can overcome anxiety, and that anxiety is just a program that they're running. It's not who they are. This is really important, that we're not our programs. So helping them to put their story in past tense, this is huge. Letting them experience how relaxed they can feel. This is also a big part of being successful, and reinforcing their plan on how they want to relax physically, reinforcing their plan. Remember, it's client-centered work, so reinforcing by helping them to imagine their success story. And it doesn't have to be more complex than what we just did then. You know, this is really important. You don't have to be a master hypnotherapist to be able to get someone to go into the hypnotic mind and use their imagination in a powerful, positive way. So I'm hoping that what we've covered here today sort of sparks some ideas in you and helps you to sort of create a very clear and clean strategy that you can implement with your clients who have been suffering from anxiety and want some keys to resolve it. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, please feel free to message me. You can go on my website, meredithmccarthy.com. There should be a link below where you can tune in, and if you want a personal one-on-one coaching session, if you want clinical supervision, you happen to be out there helping people in a capacity, and you want someone to mentor you and support you through some of those things, please feel free to connect with me. I do offer Skype sessions or Zoom if you would prefer, and can record all of those sessions and send you a recording as a reflection tool. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Really enjoy sharing my knowledge bank with people so they can be excellent at what they do. So take care out there.